As pissed off as I am over the Yankees losing the World Series, the way they lost really doesn't surprise me one bit. I guarantee if the Yankees lose the World Series, it'll be because of stupidity. That was the easiest thing to predict. Low IQ baseball and not doing the little things like fundamentals has been a weakness for the Yankees, and it sure came back to bite them eventually when facing a better team on the bigger stage. We've seen this movie way too many times before to not be able to predict it. It wasn't just that, but it sure was a big reason why the Yankees lost. Yeah, the Yankees may have gotten the furthest they've gotten in 15 years, but it's still another year of coming up short.
You know, I don't think you're happy finishing second or happy getting to a World Series. The goal is to win. If I don't win, then not fun to be around.
So what's worse, 2007 or 2001, 2003? You get to the World Series, but you lose, or not even making it to the World Series?
I mean, how do you rate losing? You know
it's
what I
all
mean?
misery to you.
Yeah, I've never understood it. You know, well, it feels better because we made it to the World Series and lost. Why does it feel better? I've never understood that. I really don't get that one.
Well, there is something, you've accomplished something by at least getting to the World Series.
What did you accomplish? You lost.
Exactly. No, I'm not holding my head high, and neither should this team with the exception of a few. Aaron Boone should have been told
bye, Felicia,
years ago, and this year's World Series only made that even more obvious. That said though, the players need to be held accountable too for both poor fielding and hitting. This entire postseason, Juan Soto was the only consistent hitter. With runners on base, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. It wasn't just Aaron Judge, but it does start with him as the captain of the team, who hit 58 home runs while hitting over 300 in the regular season. He needs to be better on the bigger stage as the captain of the team and the highest paid player, and he hasn't been his whole career. Atrocious defense cost the Yankees too, and that fifth inning collapse started with Aaron Judge. The Yankees may look pretty good on defense when just looking at defensive metrics. However, them losing because of bad defense goes back to the regular season too. They were 7th in errors during the regular season and first among teams that made the playoffs. The Dodgers were 13th in errors, so they weren't perfect either, but they made less errors than the Yankees, and in the World Series, the Yankees made 5, the Dodgers made 2. Errors cost the Yankees in both games 1 and 5. The bad defense all started when Gleyber Torres tried to backhand Juan Soto's throw from right field, couldn't field it cleanly, and didn't know where the ball was, allowing Ohtani to go to third on what should have only been a double. That eventually allowed him to score. The scorekeepers gave the error to Soto, but the life of me will never understand that. It wasn't a great throw, but it was Gleyber who let the ball get away from him. Then we have the monumental collapse in the 5th inning of Game 5. The Yankees had plenty of mental lapses before the World Series, and of course the mental lapses came back to bite them in the biggest moment in the worst way. After the Yankees avoided the sweep, we were quoting Yogi Berra, "It ain't over till it's over," even though it was highly unlikely that the Yankees would actually win 4 straight. Well, here's another Yogiism that I'm sure you're all familiar with. Baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. The Yankees just continue to find new ways to fail at the mental aspect of baseball in the worst way possible. During that
complete crap
of a 5th inning in Game 5 where the Yankees blew a 5-0 lead and 2 counted errors were made. That ground ball to Rizzo is a mental error, and I know by rule that's a hit. It shouldn't be though. I say both Cole and Rizzo are to blame there, but more Rizzo for not showing any urgency to get to the bag when he was closer to it. Rizzo and Soto are the guys on this team who've won a World Series before, and Rizzo was on a team that came back from 3-1 to win the World Series, and that's what he does as a guy with experience. He was once a Gold Glove first baseman, and he's had good defensive metrics in the last 2 seasons, but during these playoffs, he played first base like his cleats were stuck to the ground. I'll talk about how terrible Aaron Judge was at the plate later, but while we're on the subject of bad defense and stupidity, how do you make that amazing catch at the wall, but then you can't even catch what would be a routine fly ball in Little League? You're up 5-0. Who cares about the runner on first? Judge has nobody to blame but himself, and I'm sure he knows that. Anthony Volpe just needed to relax. Even though we know Kike Hernandez can run, you may as well have gone for the easy out at first when you're up 5-0 instead of throwing the ball at Jazz Chisholm's feet. Cole managed to strike out the next 2 batters, including Ohtani, but at least after that mental lapse at first base, no later than that. I can't believe Aaron Boone didn't go out there once for a mound visit to relax his guys. That's like in basketball if you don't call a timeout while blowing a 30-point lead. The only thing Gerrit Cole should have done better was covering first on that ground ball to Rizzo, but otherwise, he can hold his head high. Thanks a lot to his teammates and Aaron Boone doing nothing about that monumental collapse for ruining his no-hitter that he was throwing up until that point. Or Luke Weaver throwing over to first 3 times. How do you not know you can't do that anymore? You're a major league pitcher and you don't know the rules? Now for Aaron Boone, he may not deserve 100% of the blame, but he deserves a good amount of it for sure. We all had a bad feeling that the implosion that the Yankees had in the 5th inning of Game 5 would happen at some point, somehow, some way, on the biggest stage, and as A-Rod described it,
I mean, this is one of the greatest meltdowns that I've ever seen in 40 years.
This kind of collapse is a reflection of Boone being a horrible leader. As for his decisions, losing the World Series this year goes back to even before the playoffs when he took way too long to remove Clay Holmes from the closer role. How do you even allow him to get anywhere close to blowing the most saves in franchise history, let alone tie the record? When Boone finally did what we've all been begging for, with Clay Holmes having a 5.61 ERA from June 13th to September 3rd, Luke Weaver became the new closer, and that turned out really well. But why did this still matter now? Because had Boone not waited until September to remove Clay Holmes from the closer role, this could have helped the Yankees get home field advantage in the World Series. Fortunately, this was the easiest path for the Yankees to get to the World Series in Boone's tenure as the manager, so there was no need to worry about it before the World Series. Once we got there though, yes, it did matter. The first mistake Boone made in the World Series was pulling Gerrit Cole while he was pitching a shutout and was still under 90 pitches. He just never learns. I remember where I've seen this movie before, the 2019 ALCS when he pulled Masahiro Tanaka while he was under 70 pitches and dominating. The Yankees won that game, but he tired out the bullpen by doing this. Derek Jeter even said after the game,
Gerrit Cole was dominating this game. He was dominating the game. Yeah. And if you take him out after 88 pitches for I don't know what reason, it's a domino effect on not only this game tonight, tomorrow's game, and the rest of the series. I just think when you have someone that's dealing like Gerrit Cole was dealing tonight, you leave him out there as long as you can.
What did Gerrit Cole come to New York for? He came to New York to finish 7 innings.
I was afraid what happened too, and it sure did. So what if Gerrit Cole gave up a single to start the 7th inning? You have to trust your ace to get out of the 7th inning without giving up any runs and pull him when he starts to show signs of fatigue. Then you brought in Clay Holmes, who you should know by now. If you want to bring him in to start the inning, not with men on base, because you know he can't handle pressure very well. Right out of the gates, he struggled with his command. He was able to get 2 outs, then you didn't let him finish the inning, which told me you really don't trust him. So why bring him in then? At least the Yankees got out of the inning without giving up a run, but this still matters though because you used your bullpen when you shouldn't have. That was Gerrit Cole's inning to finish. Marcus Stroman was on the ALCS and World Series roster, wasn't he? Why didn't we see him in the game at any point? Would he have shut everyone down? No one knows. The domino effect Jeter talked about after game 1 was probably still happening as soon as he took Cole out, but Stroman, who's usually a starter, could have given you some length out of the bullpen, so probably not as likely. Not letting Cole finish the 7th inning was a dumb decision no matter who you put in, period, but just why not Marcus Stroman when you know he's the one that's fresh and you know Clay Holmes cannot handle pressure and he shouldn't be coming in with men on base? The domino effect came in full effect in game 5 when Luke Weaver had to come in for Tommy Kahnle in the 7th inning after Kahnle loaded the bases, and Weaver, who never pitched more than 30 games in a season or 1 postseason game, was exhausted, having been the closer since September, and gave up 2 sac flies to give the Dodgers the lead right back, and they never looked back on it. To put Nestor Cortes in the game when he hasn't pitched in a month to face the heart of the order, I actually don't think that was the most egregious thing. It does seem bold when knowing he hasn't pitched in a month, but Shohei Ohtani was 2 for 12 against Nestor Nestor before that at bat and ended up being 2 for 13. Tim Hill was the other option, and he's a sinker ball pitcher. Ohtani crushes those. What I had a bigger problem with was intentionally walking Mookie Betts, who was 0 for 3 to face Freddie Freeman. Freeman may be banged up, but he already hit a triple in that game. So if you're going by the numbers to make your decisions, these moves contradict themselves, don't they? Starting Carlos Rodon in game 2 was a huge mistake. Clarke Schmidt is a better road pitcher than at home, and Rodon is a better pitcher at home than on the road. So if the reason for throwing in Nestor Cortez in the 10th inning against the heart of the order was a move you made based on the numbers, where's the consistency here? Rodon didn't even last 5 innings, and Schmidt, who doesn't even give you a lot of length anyways, gave up a first inning home run to Freddie Freeman. He didn't even make it to the end of the 3rd inning, so way to go! Or the end of game 2, the Yankees made it interesting. I feel like Anthony Volpe as a major league player should know better without a manager telling him anything to not swing at the first strike when a pitcher's command is way off. And Blake Trinan was all over the place. Yet he swung at strikes 1 and 3 that were way outside. If he really doesn't know that, just wow. Do you guys even have a take sign, or do you just let the players do their own thing? If you have a take sign, why would you let any of your guys swing at the first pitch? Even if it was right over the middle, if a guy is struggling with his command like that, you don't swing at the first strike, period. You make him earn it. Game 3, sending Stanton home from second on Volpe's hit to left field when you know Stanton can't outrun a statue anymore. That should have gotten Luis Rojas fired on the spot, and I'm not joking when I'm saying this. I'm as dead ass serious as it gets. The Yankees are better off with no third base coach than Rojas. It's not the first terrible send we've seen from him. I've never seen a worse third base coach in my life. Luckily, him sending Gleyber home on Juan Soto's double in the first inning of Game 5 of the ALCS wasn't costly, as bad as that was, thanks to Stanton and Soto's heroics, but this time, it was a rally killer. As much as we may criticize Aaron Boone for getting by on just talent alone, we have to hold the players accountable too. We can start with the fact that for this whole series, the Yankees left 43 men on base. 43! The Dodgers left 29. That tells me that the Yankees had plenty of opportunities that they failed to pounce on. The Yankees as a team actually had a better slash line than the Dodgers, but their terrible situational hitting was their downfall. There's nobody that needs to be held accountable more than the captain of this team. Aaron Judge, in the first 3 games of this series, was especially terrible at the plate, which is what got them in a hole that no team has ever come back from in the World Series. The Yankees had a lot more chances with runners on and just couldn't deliver. 74 at-bats for the Yankees and 67 for the Dodgers. The Yankees walked twice as much with runners on too, and still scored 2 less runs while hitting for a worse average in those situations by 6 points. The Yankees actually hit for a better average with runners in scoring position than the Dodgers, but drove in 2 fewer runs. More on Aaron Judge, and this is not something I enjoy acknowledging because he's been my favorite player since his historic rookie year. However, I root for the team before I root for individuals. Judge has not been a good playoff hitter his entire career. No other way to put it. Outside of a few home runs here and there, Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton bailed him out in the ALDS and CS. In the World Series, the first 3 games, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He may have gone 3 for 6 in the last 2 games, but where the hell was that in the first 3 games when he was 1 for 12? He hit that home run in the first inning of Game 5 and made a great play in center field, but then he made that awful error. 2 years ago in the ALCS when he hit 063, I thought maybe he felt a mountain of pressure to perform because the rest of the team couldn't hit either. This year, he had more protection than any other year of his career, and he still shrunk when it mattered most. This is inexcusable. I really hate to talk about Aaron Judge like this, but he's proven that he's not built for the moment, and I think it's just in his head. At least from what I see, he's taking responsibility and he's not making any excuses. Perhaps he should talk to A-Rod about how he finally overcame being labeled a postseason choker in 2009. I remember seeing this movie with A-Rod year in and year out growing up, where he was so spectacular in the regular season but was abysmal come playoff time. Now we have to see it year in and year out with Judge. All that said, of course it's not just Aaron Judge. Aside from Anthony Volpe's costly error in the 5th inning of Game 5, he may have hit that grand slam in Game 4. For the whole series though, he only hit 250, and take that grand slam him away, he hit .210. He hit well in the ALDS and CS, but once we got to the World Series, he reverted back to being the average at best hitter we've become accustomed to seeing him as during the regular season. Gleyber Torres was phenomenal in the last 2 months of the season. Not so much for the entire ALDS, but he was 2 for 5 in the deciding game. Then he hit .364 in the ALCS. In the World Series though, he hit just .143. Honestly, I'm indifferent on whether the Yankees should re-sign him or not. If re-signing Juan Soto means Gleyber's gone, I'm definitely all for it. If he really is a guy that can return to all-star form for a whole season as a leadoff hitter, great. If he's really just a second half player now, well, you know the first half of the season matters too because every game counts the same. He's also had his reputation for not always giving 100%, and that's never okay. And he's also not good defensively, nor is he a good base runner. Or Austin Wells, a guy that in July and August played so well, he was actually getting talked about for Rookie of the Year when the guy who most likely will win it actually played close to the full season while Wells played 115 games. Once September came though, forget about it. In the playoffs, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Yankees may have actually been better off with Gary Sanchez than Wells. Just as a hitter though, Wells hit a couple of home runs in these playoffs, cool, but hit just 120 for the entire postseason. Sanchez hit 171 as a Yankee in the playoffs, and that's terrible too, but still better than Wells did in the playoffs, or really since September. Putting aside the ranting for now though, I'll also acknowledge the good things too. Juan Soto was phenomenal throughout his first playoff run as a Yankee. He was the Yankees' most consistent postseason hitter, and in the World Series, he hit .313 with an OPS over 1,000. You really couldn't ask anything more of him. Just another reason to give him however much money he asks for.
Show me the money.
Gerrit Cole was as phenomenal as you can get for a $324 million ace, and this team did him dirty. Aaron Boone made a terrible decision by not letting him finish the 7th inning in Game 1, and the defense behind him in the 5th inning of Game 5 was absolutely pathetic. You can blame Cole for not covering first on that ground ball to Rizzo. I think both are to blame there. Rizzo deserves more though. Pitching wise though, you couldn't have asked for any better out of Cole. Stanton may have not hit for average since the ALDS, but his home runs got the Yankees to the World Series, and he hit 2 more in the World Series to hit the most home runs of any Yankee in a postseason run. These guys can walk out with their heads high. So can Mark Leiter Jr., who we may have thought why when the Yankees got him, but after not pitching at all in the ALDS, from Game 5 of the ALCS and throughout the World Series, he didn't give up a run. Tim Hill as well. He was a nobody before he came to the Yankees, but had a 2.05 ERA as a Yankee in the regular season and gave up just 1 earned run in the playoffs. Luke Weaver didn't give up any earned runs either in the World Series. Game 5 of the World Series, he had to be put in a spot he shouldn't have had to be put in when he was just worn out. I guess Clay Holmes, even with all those blown saves in the regular season, but he didn't give up 1 earned run in the World Series while pitching all 5 games. Everyone else though, absolutely not. What's next for this team? At least this will be the last we'll see of Alex Verdugo. He was putrid all year at the plate, and he may be a really good defensive outfielder, but his bat is not nearly good enough to be an everyday player. I don't know what happened after 2022 when he was actually a decent hitter, but now he's an automatic out most of the time. It's no surprise to me that Aaron Boone is staying, as long as he's nice to his players. Ever since he's been the manager, the Yankees have gotten by on talent alone, and there has been a culture of complacency. This is not what the New York Yankees used to be about.
Are you a graceful loser?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm like a Yankee fan. My foot has gone through a number of television sets in my time. I bleed like those guys out there do, the fans. I mean, they hate to see it lose, and I hate to lose.
You take it personally?
Yes. Yes,
I mean,
do.
What does it say about George Steinbrenner when the Yankees lose?
It says he's one of the worst losers in the world. You show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. And I gotta be one of the worst.
Out of the 27 championships this team has won in its history, I promise you, complacency did not win them any of those championships. Also, about Aaron Boone's press conference after Game 5, he really said Volpe throwing a third was obviously the right play when it was a throw he rushed, but obviously he would not have rushed it going to first. I understand you can't throw your guys under the bus to the media, but what kind of logic is this from the manager to say that was obviously the right move? Or saying Rizzo needed to secure the ball before going to first base? He did, and he showed no urgency. Aaron Boone has never shown any ability to lead, and in his entire tenure, he's gotten by on talent alone in the regular season, and then they continue to crumble in the biggest moments in October. This time around, you just didn't face a real juggernaut until the World Series. What definitely needs to happen is to find a new third base coach. I never liked Luis Rojas anyways, and we've seen him make some boneheaded decisions sending guys home before. Him sending Stanton home in Game 3 was my last straw. Why haven't you fired him already? I'm not the biggest Brian Cashman fan, but I do have to give him credit where it's due for finding diamonds in the rough like Tim Hill and Luke Weaver. That's one thing I will say Cashman is pretty good at. None of the diamonds in the rough he's been able to find before were good for very long, but the fact that he's found so many of them that were ever able to produce, I'll give him his due credit there. I expect Cashman to stay. He also did get Juan Soto, and he needs to give Juan Soto that blank check now, because without him, you're not sniffing another World Series for a very long time. I would say the Soto trade was a win for both teams as long as you re-sign him. For the Padres, it was addition by subtraction, and the Yankees got a generational superstar who's still young. The Jazz Chisholm trade was actually a pretty good one too. I just don't like how he holds on to prospects when they're not going to have an impact at the major league level. He's definitely taken on some bad contracts over the years. He could have gotten Tommy Edman at the trade deadline and put him in center field, moved Judge back to his natural position in right field, and Soto in left field. DFA Trent Grisham, and Alex Verdugo is the fourth outfielder. Edman compared to Verdugo, the regular season production may have only been marginally better, but the playoffs, Edman was phenomenal. It's not like everything Cashman has done is bad. He still hasn't done enough, winning just one championship in 20 years, while constantly having one of the top payrolls in Major League Baseball. He is also the guy who hired Aaron Boone and has kept him for way too long. I definitely want more pitching. You may as well trade Jason Dominguez if you're just going to bury him. Stanton's not going anywhere, right? And you know Dominguez is not a good defensive outfielder, so he can only DH, right? Send him away while he still has value if you have no use for him. Or maybe you want to try him out at first base since you'll need a first baseman. Rizzo's probably gone. Congratulations to the LA Dodgers on their 8th championship in franchise history. As a Japanese native, Nihon no tomodachi Ohtani to Yamamoto omedetou gozaimasu. You guys capitalized on the Yankees' mistakes. Freddie Freeman, you killed us and secured your spot in Cooperstown even if you retire today. What do you make of the 2024 World Series? What do you think is next for the Yankees? Please drop your comments down below. Some fun facts before I end this. The only teams in my lifetime to win the World Series the year after losing it are the Royals in 2015 and the Astros 2 years ago. The last time the Yankees ever won the World Series the year after losing it goes all the way back to 1977. I'll be honest, I'm not so optimistic that the 2025 Yankees will do it as long as Aaron Boone is managing, but hopefully I'm wrong. That's it for this video. If you feel the same way and are tired of the Yankees continuing to come up short, please consider liking this video. If you could please consider subscribing and turning on notifications to never miss another video. Welcome to the team, and if you're already subscribed, thanks so much for your support as always. Links to my social media are down below for my more immediate reactions to what's going on in the sports world. Here's my most recent video or the one that YouTube recommends. Both are up above. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully better days are ahead for the Yankees, and I'll catch you next time.